Welcome to Tough Conversations with David Wood, where play meets depth. We help teams and high-performing leaders like you to master your tough conversations so you succeed in your career and in your life. When we avoid tough conversations, we stay small. Teams stay disengaged, conflicted, and ultimately end up quitting. When we lean in and master our tough conversations, they become the defining moments that literally shape our careers, our relationships, and our lives. So let's dive in and master your next tough conversation so you can be the leader that you would follow. Let's play. Welcome everybody. Here's another case study, a real life case study from someone's life. And this time we're getting really personal. This is from the free weekly Zoom calls we have where people can come and bring any tough conversation and we help you role play it and go back out in the world and have it. Now, this one's so personal because I'm the guinea pig. It's me. This is an issue with my aunt where I felt hurt. I felt desperate. I really needed a safe haven to stay in, and I got a no. And I held on to this for 2 years, and I thought it's finally time to do something about it. So I get coaching where firstly, she spends the first 10 minutes, which we won't show you, where we just dive in and find out who's the issue with, what's my hope and fear out of the conversation, what is the issue, do I have a specific request, which was a tough one for me, and then if I get curious and step into my aunt's shoes, what happens then? Let's join the role play and we'll debrief afterwards and draw out the insights. Then I'm going to play for you the actual video I sent my aunt. So we're going way beyond theory now, and you'll hear the actual words that I sent to her to start to open up this dialogue. All right, let's jump into it. Gulp.
So what is your fear about how the conversation will go?
Oh, my own damn question thrown back at me. Maybe I could find out that she doesn't care about me very much.
So if you had a specific request of her, what would that be?
God. Go back in time and change your answer?
All right. You want to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
So what I'll say is, as you're going to be playing your aunt, and I'm going to be playing you.
Yep.
And you can say anything that you're afraid that your aunt would say in the conversation. Lena, I was wondering if you'd have a few minutes to chat about something that has been on my mind for a number of years. And it's been something that's hard for me to bring up, but I really love you and your family, and I want us to feel like we are connected, and I feel like we've been growing a bit distant, and I really believe that by having this conversation, it can bring us closer together. Would you be open to having that conversation?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. So a couple of years ago, when I was having a really tough time, I had asked if I could stay in your home while you were going to be away. And I felt like it really would have been my salvation to do that. And at the time, you said no, that wouldn't be something that you wanted to have me in your home. And honestly, that was really hard for me. And I don't know if you know the depth of how hurtful that was for me. And I'm very open to understanding it and trying to understand your side of the story here. But I wanted to just have an open conversation with you because there's still some lingering hurt about how I felt. And if I'm honest, part of what's kept me from having this conversation is my fear of really understanding what was behind that. And so I wanted to share with you how hard that was for me because I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot going on in my life. And I felt that your home would have been the perfect place for me to have respite and love surrounding me. And so it was hurtful at the time that you didn't want me in your home. And I just want to get an understanding of how was that for you? And maybe there's something that I'm not aware of. Would you be open to sharing that?
Wow. Well, yeah, I didn't know that that things were that bad, and I had a lot on,
Mhm.
and I don't like having people stay in my home anymore because they move things around, and I'm very particular about how I like things. And you're not the most responsible guy. You you kept looking for the switch to turn off the skylight when you were younger. I've never forgotten that.
Hmm.
And you didn't lock the car when you left the house last time. So I just really didn't want anybody um, to stay there.
Mhm. I understand that. There have been times in my life where I haven't always been the most responsible, and I can understand that perspective. I think what was hard for me was really feeling like it was me in my time of need, and feeling like you weren't willing to support me in that time. And that might not even be the case, because I'm hearing what you're saying is that you were worried about me not being responsible with your space and your things. And I can understand how that would be hard for you. What felt really hard for me was feeling like I wasn't supported in that moment.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. I just don't like anyone in my home.
Hmm. Yeah. I'd love to get a sense from you. You said you didn't really know how it was for me at that time. Would you be open to me sharing more with you about how I felt at that time?
Ooh. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think maybe in that moment, I wasn't really able to share the full extent of what I was going through. And it would mean a lot to me now to have you hear that. So
Hmm.
I had a lot of anxiety. It was a really hard time for me. I didn't feel like I had a place where I could have rest. I felt like I needed a haven. And I just had a lot of anxiety in my life, which caused a lot of trauma around me. It was hard.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I've seen you go through some really hard times, and as you know, I've been through depression myself,
Mm,
and so I'm sorry to hear that it was that rough on you, and I wish I'd known that things were that desperate, and that I'd helped you more.
thank you. It means a lot to me that I was able to share that and that you were able to listen. And I'm sorry that we've both gone through those really tough times.
Yeah,
I think I'd like to leave it there.
yeah. So yeah, jump in, Meg.
Hi, you two. I'm happy to be with you again. So Kat, I loved that. There were so many cool things, like so many cool moments around like getting permission to share more of what it was like getting permission to be gotten, that I thought was really bold and beautiful. I loved how appreciative you were throughout that entire conversation, like how often you said thank you for her listening and allowing you to share. Like it really had me see sharing as like when someone allows us to share with them, they are giving us a gift. Like they are like, it is a gift and it is precious. So it was really cool. I one of the places that that I wondered about going was, David, you said um, that at the core of it, there's something around like not being loved. And I almost wonder if there's a place to lean into that, like checking the assumption or giving up that fear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's great, Megan. Yeah, totally.
It's like such a tender, like young fear. And I just imagine your aunt like hearing that and like, it really like having a reaction with her heart. Um, that could like create more of that intimacy that it sounds like you're committed to creating with her.
Yeah. I started getting teary when you were asking permission and you said, I love you and I want to feel more connected with you. That felt really on. And again, it wouldn't be my habit or my natural inclination to include that at the beginning. So I was really moved by that. And what came up as you were speaking, I realized I got another layer of it for me. I was thinking, if my aunt won't help me in my desperate time of need, I'm really screwed. Because I think she does love me. We've been quite close for a long, long time. And so my mind's like, how is that possible? I expect a lot of people to say no. Never expected her to say. So I got more clarity about that and I can communicate that to her. And then I liked the request. Can I share? Would you be open to hearing more? That's really smart, because if you do that without the request, people can get uncomfortable and they want to jump in and defend and whatever. So you actually asked, could I share the depth of how hard it was for me? And you reminded me that one thing I'd really like out of this is for her to understand. I'd like her to know. Also seeing the thing that I think I can take responsibility for is I probably didn't communicate clearly how desperate things were. And I can understand why I didn't do that. When someone's feeling like that, it's really hard to push and say, but I really, really need it. But I probably didn't make that clear.
There's, to add to what you said, David, I think that there's, depending on who you know your aunt to be, there could be some context setting around sharing more. Like, I want to share more, not to make you feel guilty or whatever, but because I just like, I really want more intimacy with you. And I feel like it's a part of my life you didn't get to really see because I failed to like make it really clear what I was going through. So there could be some context setting just so that it's crystal clear that there's no blame or shame implied in it. And Kat, the way you shared it didn't sound like there was blame or shame, but I know when I get triggered, like I might interpret that even if someone says it perfectly.
Yeah, that's good. And that's where that hope and intention comes in, that I want us to feel connected. And I'd like you to understand more of what it was like for me. I'd like you to hear it and get it. That's really important, because without that, they might just assume this is a big blame game. What I'm enjoying about this process is I'm getting a whole bunch of layers of this. I'm realizing, so regardless of what happens with her, I'm getting clearer, all the different pieces. I find this therapeutic. I find this role play therapeutic.
There's something really nice about playing the other side as well, just like Boris said, around it kind of makes you think from that person's perspective and think about what is important to them and what would they say?
All right, that was me getting coached and getting clarity, finding out what the issues are, which is really the first step. Now I'm going to play for you the actual video I sent to my aunt. This is not just theory. This is what she listened to, which opened the dialogue. Here we go. Hello, Lynn. I wanted to create a video message for you as a prelude to getting on the phone and talking, mainly because I'm a chicken. I've been holding onto something for a couple of years and it's kept me distant from you. And I miss you. I miss feeling connected. And it's just been easier to sweep it under the carpet, but I don't want to do that anymore. So I want to talk about it. And I'll give you the outline here, and then I'd love to talk if you're willing. And my hope is that I can feel more connected to you after this, because I felt like I've had a couple of years without my Auntie Lynn, and that's too long. And if you don't want to hear what it is, then now's a good time to stop this video. What I felt a couple of years ago when I asked to stay at your place when I had a lot of anxiety, I felt hurt when you said no. Um, I mean, I could be disappointed a lot of times, but at that time, I was pretty desperate. I was at a really low point in my life. I was scared. I needed a base that felt like home. Couldn't stay with my parents at the time. It's a bit nerve wracking, and I was looking for like a home base where I could just recharge and rest. And your place would have been perfect. And you were going away for 2 weeks, so I didn't understand that you said no. I do understand that you care about your place and you care about everything being in the right place, and that I would have disrupted that. I get that. I also get that I'm not the most responsible of people, so something might have gone wrong. I just think, given how desperate I was, I would have expected you to help and to say, yes, of course. And that didn't happen. And I think I felt unloved. And my worry is that maybe you don't care about me as much as I thought. That's my concern in bringing this up. Also, my concern in bringing this up is that it might be really awkward. It's already awkward for me creating this, and maybe you'll feel defensive or attacked, which is not my intention. Um, and I also realized maybe you weren't aware how desperate I was. So that's possible that I didn't make it really clear. It was hard for me to make it really clear because I was desperate, and saying to someone I'm really desperate is hard sometimes when I'm in great need. I'd love to know um, how it is for you to get this message. I imagine it might be uncomfortable. Um, I'd like to know what your thoughts are, what your reactions are. I'd like to know what was going on for you. I think I'd like to get affirmation that you do care about me and that you would be there for me if I really needed you. I'd like to hear that if it's true for you. So I guess those would be my requests. And I would like to talk live with you about it. And thanks for listening. Okay, so you've heard my coaching. This is one of the first things I do when I have a tough conversation is I get coaching on it. I go through all the steps to get clarity. Then you've heard what I sent to my aunt. Now, I couldn't play the live conversation for you because that'd be weird to record that. I'd have to get her permission up front. It's all weird. But I sent her a video to open up that dialogue, and you've heard that. Okay, now let me tell you what happened. So I'll preface this by saying it was underwhelming for me and disappointing. And I wanted to have a really great result to show you guys. Like, wow, look what's possible with tough conversations. This wasn't everything I wanted. It was a mixed bag. But I'm also seeing how perfect that is, because that's what you're going to get. Sometimes it could be a train wreck. You got to dust yourself off. Sometimes it'll be amazing. In my experience, most of the time, it's really quite extraordinary. In this case, it was a mixed bag. So let me tell you what happened. After I sent the video, I did get back from my Auntie Lynn, I do love you and I'm happy to talk. All right, so that's the win. If you remember from my video, I think there were 2 or 3 things I asked for. I wanted to know, these were my requests. I wanted to know that she did care about me. So box checked. I wanted to know that she got the impact and she understood that that was really hard for me. And I wanted to know that if I ever really needed help, she'd be there. I didn't get those other 2 things. What happened is, and I think we could both take responsibility for that. One, she didn't seem that keen to get on the phone. She said she was happy to, but didn't seem to make effort to get on a live call. I wasn't making a lot of effort, but I kept reaching out and trying to set it up. And in the end, I just called her out of the blue, different time zones, and because I was committed to us actually speaking. And then in the call, she was kind of non-committal. We chatted and we just kind of caught up. And then I said, so how was it for you to get that video? And I wanted to address this. And I was hoping that she'd respond and say, yes, I get the impact. And yes, and, yeah, no, that didn't happen. She just said, yeah, it was good. I was glad to get your video and I was happy to watch it. Now, where I can take responsibility is I could have then kept pushing and said, well, thanks for telling me you care about me. That's great. Now, I'd also like to check that you got the impact and you understood how difficult it was for me. I could have pushed for that. And I could have also said, I'd like to know if you'd be there if I really needed you. I could have done that. I chickened out. It was too edgy for me to go as far as I did. And I kind of felt like I'm pulling teeth here a little bit. And it'd be nice if my aunt had done loads of personal growth and just like jumped up and I felt like she was meeting me there. But really, when it comes down to it, you're not going to get that a lot in life. And it was my responsibility to keep going and to ask for what I wanted. I didn't get it, and it felt edgy for me to keep pushing, so I let it go. The win is, she told me she does care about me. The win is we did connect. We did talk about each other's lives, so now it's not really weird. I feel more distant than I did originally, and if I really was in a bind, I'm not convinced that she'd be there. But here's the other lesson I got. It's nice if someone else in this tough conversation will show up the way you want. It's nice if you get your requests met. That's not always going to happen. So what I was left with is I could keep pushing, which I didn't want to do, or I could do my own work and let go. And that's what I've chosen to do. She's a wonderful human being. She's my aunt. We have a lot of history. I love her. And fact is, if I ever needed to stay at her place, it may not be available. All right, I got that. I get that I could find somewhere else to stay. I could find another way to support myself. I don't need that. I wish that some of my family were more communicative and easier to go deep with. And that's not life. So the responsibility is on me for that. So I was underwhelmed. I was disappointed with how it went, and I realized that I could show up even more powerfully and go deeper and go for what I want. And I may do that in the future. And also, I have the option to let go, to do my own work, and realize that, to find my aunt's innocence, to find everybody's innocence, and to realize that I actually don't need anything from her. So I'd love to get your thoughts about this. It didn't turn out the way I expected. So post me a comment over on the Facebook group or on the blog, playforreal.life/podcast. You can find this exact episode and you can leave a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts. Okay, I know I got a lot out of this tough conversation. It was awkward. It was difficult. I did it. If you'd like to join us on the free weekly Zoom call every Friday, then you're welcome to register. You can bring any tough conversation you have. You can stay confidential, turn off your video, use a fake name. That's totally fine. We're happy to help you, and you may be featured on a future podcast. The link to register is playforreal.life/Zoom register. You've been listening to Tough Conversations with David Wood. Now it's action time. Mastering your tough conversations will have a major impact on your team, your company, and you as a high-performing executive or entrepreneur. If you're ready, request a discovery session with me at playforreal.life so we can transform your team, your company, and you. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I would love you to help me spread this message of tough conversations in a very simple way. Just leave a public review at playforreal.life/podcast. And you may hear me read it out loud and thank you live on a future podcast. Now, let's play.